Hey friends, and welcome to today's class. For today, no props are required, but I do have a block with me just to give a little bit more support as we start in a kneeling position. So again, not required. If you'd like to use a blanket or a pillow instead, you're more than welcome. But whenever you have what you need for today's practice, let's go ahead and meet in that kneeling position. And so for me, I'm going to start in more of a Virasana, so my legs are going to be a little bit further away from one another, but I'm going to use the block to support my seat. Give me a little bit of feedback. To allow something for my heels to click in toward, something for my sit bones to ground into. But you don't need it if you don't want it. So once you settle into your space, go ahead and rest one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly. Soften the gaze, close your eyes. And come right into your breath. From this grounded space, be sure to find a nice tall spine. Feeling that spine grow nice and tall as you root down into the earth. And encourage some deeper breaths here in this moment, really finding that expansion all the way from the belly through the rib cage. Settling the mind. Giving yourself a few moments to arrive onto your mat. Letting the connection of your body to the earth, your hands onto your front body, allowing those connections to provide a sense of security, a nice sense of self as you arrive. Slowly blink the eyes open. On your next inhale, reach those fingertips up toward the sky. Reach nice and tall. And then go ahead and grab hold of opposite elbows. And with that hold, go ahead and reach those forearms up and back behind you, trying to find a nice expansion within the chest. Maybe grab opposite wrists if that feels a little bit more accessible. And then go ahead and release that hold. Drive the elbows in toward the hips. Open the chest a little bit more. Feel the muscles on the back body engage. And then go ahead and inhale. Everything pulls into heart center. Exhale. Settle. Inhale, arms come up overhead. Maybe grab opposite elbow, opposite arm in front. And on that inhale, expanding back, reaching those forearms back in space. And exhale, let go of opposite arms, drive those elbows in toward the hips. Inhale, pull it all in. Exhale, settle. Inhale, arms come up overhead, reach tall, lift up. And on the exhale, right fingertips come beyond the right toes, left hand outside of right thigh. Find a twist. Open through the chest. Continue to open as you drive down through the tops of the feet, through the shins. Reach that left arm up and overhead, press the hips forward. Maybe click those heels in toward the block if you have it there. Exhale, lower down nice and slow. Inhale, arms come up through center. Exhale, find a twist. Use that connection to the mat, to your body, to find a nice gentle twist through the chest, through the belly. And then follow through that opening as you drive down through the tops of the feet, through those shins. Reach the right arm up and overhead. Hug the heels toward the block as you press those hips forward. Exhale, lower down. Inhale, arms up through center. Exhale, hands come through heart center. Fingertips come beyond the toes. Scoop the tailbone underneath you. Press those hips forward toward the top of the mat. As you open the front body, roll the shoulders open, gaze toward the sky. Maybe drop the head back. Nice and slow. Hips back down toward the blocks. Come up onto the shins. Take the block out from underneath you. Coming through tabletop. Go ahead and tuck those toes. Press the hips up and back, downward facing dog. Nice and slow, really dropping those heels down toward the earth, pedaling out through the legs. Find the movement that you need here in these next few breaths. And within the next breath or so, you settle down into your space. We're going to find a few spinal rolls toward the top of the mat. So on your next inhale, heels lift up high toward the sky. Exhale, bend the knees, gaze forward. From here, spring the body forward, lift those hips up toward the sky and slowly round through the spine. Pausing just briefly through your high plank as you drop the hips down toward the mat. Staying up onto the tops of the feet, pulling up and through, upward facing dog. Press through the heels of the hands, roll over the toes, hips lift up back toward the sky. Maybe finding a little bit of cow pose in through the back as you lift those hips back up into downward facing dog. Another round here. Inhale, heels lift. Exhale, bend the knees, gaze forward. Round and ripple the spine toward the top of the mat. Take it nice and slow. Let it feel good. Only pausing into the plank till you roll over the toes. Onto the tops of the feet, pull forward, upward facing dog. And then drop the knees, send the hips back. Child's pose. If you want a little bit extra, feel free to tent the fingers. Or you can come all the way up into puppy pose, whichever you prefer. Find a nice subtle opening across the chest, across the upper back. Let the head hang heavy. Plant the hands, pull the body through, coming into high cobra. So rolling over the toes, tops of the feet, onto the earth. Thighs are now down onto the mat. Pressing through the heels of the hands to keep the spine nice and lifted. Maybe a gentle engagement of the glutes to help press those hip points forward, really opening through the front body here. And then exhale, lower, hips down toward the earth, chest comes down toward the earth, hands stay right where they are, right underneath the shoulders, maybe along the rib cage. Inhale, press up. Open up. Feel the back line of the body engage as you press through the heels of the hands and you lift. Exhale, lower, keeping those elbows hugged in on the lift and lower. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. One more inhale. Exhale, lower. If you made your way beyond the front edge of the mat, feel free to scoot back just a little bit. Right fingertips are going to stay underneath the right shoulder. Left arm extends out toward a capital T. Bend the right knee. Reach those right toes toward the left fingertips as you find a nice twist on your belly. Let it feel good. Opening through the shoulder. the spine, a little into the hips. Nice and slow, make your way back onto both hip points. Left fingertips come in, right arm extends out into a capital T. Bend the left knee, reach those left toes over toward the right fingertips as you find a twist opening toward the right, or toward the left, rolling onto the right side. Feeling that opening all across the front of that right chest. Using gentle press of that left knee to open up through the hips in this space. Nice and slow, come back to center. Fingertips come into 10 and 2. Gaze down towards the mat, coming into a few rounds of oscillating cobra. You don't have to come up and down through center. Feel free to find a little bit of freedom in this space. So on the inhales, you're going to lift. And on the exhales, you're going to lower. Again, find freedom a few rounds here. Feel free to make some big circles. Right to left, left to right. Maybe dropping a shoulder. And whatever is calling you, you have some freedom in this already pretty free-flowing pose here. 2 more rounds, whatever that looks like for you. On the exhale, you're going to lower. The hands are going to come underneath the shoulders. You're going to press yourself back. Child's pose. Stretch out through the hips. Nice long spine as the hands grip down towards the mat. Let that forehead hang heavy toward the earth. And then drop the forearms, pull the body forward, coming into Sphinx pose. And as you come into the Sphinx pose to start here, just kind of allow the forearms to support you, but kind of let the shoulders become a little bit soft. Allow the chin to tuck in toward your chest. So the forearms are supporting you enough. You're not fully dumping in, but not your fully engaged space. Just allow the head to hang heavy. Feel the tension within the back line of the neck, working its way into the shoulder blades. So still a little bit of mindfulness here in this space. As you try to open up. Linger where it feels good. Or maybe it just feels nice to almost have like a little bit of a bobblehead here in this shape. And then nice and slow, press a little bit more into those forearms as you slowly start to peel the chest and heart forward. So finding a nice little engagement here in this space. Find a few breaths, draw those shoulders down. Doesn't have to be your most active space, just kind of waking things up. And then we're going to come into a variation of frog pose, a single leg frog pose here. So prop those arms up wherever they need to be, and you're slowly going to drive that right knee out towards the outer edge of the mat so that the knee becomes even with that right hip. The right ankle is underneath that right knee, toes are facing away from you. Just as you would if you were coming into traditional frog pose, but we're just going to focus one leg at a time. Coming into this space, drawing that right hip point down toward the earth, feeling that opening along the groin, the inner thigh. And then you can stay here. If you want a little bit more, feel free to bring that left hand out away from you and then thread the right arm underneath the left armpit, coming down onto that right shoulder. And then maybe bringing that left hand back in to give yourself a little pillow as you gaze over toward the left. Wherever you choose to be, whether it's in the twist or at the starting point in like a Sphinx pose, we're still aiming toward bringing that right hip point down toward the earth. We're trying to open up through the front of that right hip. The twist is just a bonus. Two more breaths. Press down through the left hand as you thread the right arm out. Come back into that Sphinx-like pose. And then you're going to slowly slide that right leg back behind you, switching sides. Feel free to shimmy out the hips, reset. And then you're going to slide that left knee out and open so the left knee comes even with that left hip, left ankle underneath the left knee, toes facing away from you. And again, if you feel the sensation here that feels good for you, stay here. You do not need to go any further than where you are. Pulling that left hip down towards the mat. So you're trying to square the hips off into the earth below you. Stay right here. Stay nice and supported and lifted. Or if that twist feels good, you walk that right hand just out in front of the mat. And then you thread the left arm underneath the right armpit. Give yourself a pillow with that right hand. Wherever you choose to be, you're still sliding that left knee out away from you as you guide that left hip bone toward the earth. Maybe a gentle reach of the right toes back behind you. One more breath. And then nice and slow, unravel. Bring yourself back into that Sphinx pose with the upper body and slowly guide the left leg back to meet the right. Hands come down toward the lower part of the rib cage, top of the feet onto the mat. Press yourself up, high cobra. Just a nice little lift here. Exhale, send the hips back, child's pose. Big toes come together to touch. Knees can be as wide or as narrow as you'd like. One more breath to reset. And then bring the hips away from the heels. Tuck those toes, come into downward facing dog. From your downward facing dog, we're going to take 2 rounds of our spinal waves one more time. Inhale, heels lift up toward the sky. Exhale, bend the knees, gaze forward. Round and ripple that energy toward the top of the mat. Finding your way into an upward facing dog. Exhale, reverse, downward facing dog. One more round. Inhale, heels lift. Exhale, bend the knees, gaze forward. Round and ripple. Really create space through the hips, through the spine. Rolling over our toes, finding upward facing dog. Exhale. Downward facing dog. As you come back into your downward facing dog, go ahead and widen your stance for both the upper body and the lower body. Almost like you're making more of a star shape here. Settle into this new space. On the inhale, heels lift up toward the sky. On the exhale, just drop those heels a little bit closer down toward the earth as you press a little bit stronger through the heels of the hands. Inhale, heels lift. Exhale, drive those heels down toward the earth. Really pressing into that space. Inhale, heels lift. Exhale, lower. One more round. Inhale, lift. And exhale, lower. Now with that, heaviness in the heels here. Nice and slow, walk those hands back toward your feet. Keeping those feet nice and wide, maybe turning out the toes. Sink those hips down toward the heels. Coming into a passive squat. Shimmying the weight side to side. Just finding a nice opening through the inner thighs. And once you feel a little bit more settled into this space, maybe you want to bounce the hips a little bit. Maybe that helps create a little bit more depth. Once you settle into your center, hands come together, elbows inside the knees. Draw the heels of the hands down toward the earth. Nice long spine. And then open the hands away from one another. Fingertips come down toward the earth. On the exhale, toes come in front of the heels. Lift the hips up toward the sky. Forward fold. Finding a few rounds here. Inhale, drop the hips, chest lifts. Inhale. Exhale, find your fold. Inhale, drop the hips, lift up. Exhale, find your fold. One more round, inhale, hips lift, hips drop, chest lifts. Exhale, find your fold. In this fold, feel free to change the stance if you'd like to. Otherwise, keep the feet nice and wide, parallel toward the edges of the mat. And then go ahead and grab opposite elbows. Feel free to bring a softness to the knees. A nice little traction of the spine as the head falls heavy down toward the earth. Feel free to sway left to right, maybe swaying into the hips. Just taking it nice and easy here, feeling the back body lengthen as the spine creates space for itself. Back line of the legs start to feel a little bit longer. And then within the next breath or so, slowly kind of winding your way back through center. Release the hold. Fingertips come down to the earth. Inhale, halfway lift. Long spine. Engaged in the back body. Hips are pressing backward. Exhale, fold. Inhale, start to walk the hands toward the top of the mat. Exhale, downward facing dog. Feeling nice and spacious here in your downward facing dog. On your next inhale, heels lift up toward the sky. Exhale, bend the knees, gaze forward. Round and ripple the spine, coming into high plank and pausing there. As you pause in your high plank, feel nice and integrated, pressing through the heels of the hands. As you reach this crown of the head forward, heels are driving back. And then nice and slow, come onto the outer blade of the left foot, inner edge of the right foot, coming into side plank on your left. Stay nice and lifted and strong here. Keeping the left hip kind of scooping up the right, lifting up and engage that left side body. And then nice and slow, come on back down into your high plank, pause. And then coming onto the outer blade of the right foot, inner blade of the left foot, coming into side plank on the right side. Feeling strong and integrated in this space. Right hip is scooping up the left hip this time. Pressing strong through the heel of that right hand, reaching through the left. Nice and slow, come back into your high plank. Bend the knees, hips up and back, downward facing dog. Inhale, heels lift. Exhale, bend the knees, gaze forward. Round and ripple, coming into that high plank once more. Pausing in the center. And slowly making your way onto the outer blade of the left foot, inner edge of the right foot, coming into that side plank on the left side. Right fingertips reach up toward the sky. And then from here, strong within the left leg as you bring the right knee up and in toward the chest. Drive it in, drive it in, drive it in. And then nice and slow, trying to stay stable in that bottom leg. Can you open that right hip? Can you stack that right knee on top of both the hips? Nice and slow, drop the right toes back behind that left knee. Open the body up, wild thing. Really press those hips toward the sky as you reach the right arm up and overhead. We're going to reverse that movement nice and slow. So coming back into that side plank, pluck the right toes off the mat. And then nice and slow, turning onto those left toes, nice and slow. Use the right fingertips as you need to drop the right shin toward the right side of the mat. Spin the left heel down. Maybe kickstand that right leg out a little bit if you need. You're going to open up into a fallen gate pose. So spin the chest, the body over toward the left side of the room. Left arm reaches up and overhead. Really reach those fingertips as you anchor down through the outer blade of that left foot. Left hand comes back down toward the mat. Come onto those left toes. Inhale. Or bring that right knee up and in toward the chest. Inhale. Three-legged dog. Bend the right knee. Reach those right toes back behind you, coming into wild thing. Open the front of that right hip as the left heel stays anchored down. Square the hips off, coming back onto those left toes. Bend the left knee as you drive the right knee in toward the right elbow. Make that connection. Open back up, three-legged dog. Inhale. Exhale, drive the right knee toward the left elbow. Make that connection and pause. Kick that right leg straight out, come into fallen triangle, coming down into the inner lining of that left foot as you reach the left arm up toward the sky. Pause here, feel the lift of the hips, feel the strength within the edges of the feet. And then nice and slow, turning onto the heels, drop the hips down, finding a wide-legged forward fold. Inhale, find a nice lifted spine. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, come back up. The left hand plants behind the left hip. Just kind of scoop your hips up and toward the sky. We're going to pull ourselves up and into a fallen triangle on the left side. So that right heel might pull in a little bit different than fallen triangle, a little different sensation, but we're still finding that nice lift, that strength through the upper body. Exhale, drop the hips once more. Sweep yourself back over toward the right. Your right hand plants behind the right hip. The left arm sweeps up and overhead, coming back into that true fallen triangle. Left hand plants down onto the mat. Spin onto those left toes. Bring that right knee in towards your chest. Three-legged dog, inhale. Exhale. Downward facing dog. Now we're going to work our way onto the other side. So inhale, heels lift. Exhale, bend the knees, gaze forward. Find that spinal roll. Make it as spacious as you'd like. Coming into that high plank and pausing. And then outer blade of the right foot, inner blade of the left foot. Open up, side plank on the right side. Stay lifted within the hips, strong through that right arm. Nice and slow, strong through the outer blade of that right foot. In comes the left knee in toward the chest. Find nice strength here, and then slowly open that hip up. The left knee comes up toward the sky, trying to stack the knees on top of the hips. And then nice and slow, drop those toes behind the right knee, open up, wild thing. Find the space. Lift the hips, opening through the front body, strong through the upper body. Then we're going to reverse this movement. So start to pluck the left toes off the mat. And then nice and slow, use those left fingertips as you need to kind of guide you. As you spin onto those toes, drop the left shin onto the mat. Dropping the inner arch of the right foot down. Maybe kickstand that left leg as you need. You're going to open up into that fallen gate pose. So you're anchoring down through the outer blade of that right foot as the right arm reaches up toward the sky. Opening up through that right rib cage. Keeping those hips pressing forward. Feel a nice opening here. And then start to slowly bring the right hand down to the earth, spinning onto those back toes. Pluck the left knee up and off the mat. Inhale, three-legged dog. Exhale, soft bend in the right knee as you drive the left knee toward the left elbow. Pause. Inhale, three-legged dog. Exhale, drive left knee, right elbow. Cross body. Feel that connection. Feel the lift of the left inner thigh in towards the belly as you kick that left leg straight. Drop the inner edge of that right foot, open up, fallen triangle. Feel the lift of the hips, the cinch of the left side waist. And then nice and slow, spin those toes up toward the sky, heels down. Wide-legged forward fold. Toes stay lifted, drawing those heels away from you. Find the fold. Let your heart rate kind of settle here in this space. Come back to your breath. And then slowly start to walk yourself back up. Right hand plants behind the right hip. And we're going to kind of come into a variation of fallen triangle. So you're going to scoop the hips up toward the sky. Inner lining of the left foot comes down as you press the hips up. Left arm reaches up and overhead. Drop the hips back down. Sweep your body over toward the left side. As the left hand plants behind the left hip, scoop those hips up once more. The outer blade of that left foot draws in just a little bit. Find that fallen triangle. And then the right hand comes down. Square the right hip down towards the mat. Maybe find a brief stretch within the outer edge of that left hip. Bring that left knee back in toward the chest. Three-legged dog. Inhale. Exhale. Downward facing dog. One more round each side. Take a breath or so here in your downward facing dog. Inhale, heels lift. Exhale, bend the knees, gaze forward. Make your way into high plank. Pause. Come on over. Side plank on the left. Stay lifted, stay strong. Find your stability. If you wiggle, you wobble, you lose your balance, get right back into it. Drive that right knee up and in toward the chest. Keep the hips lifted. Open that right knee up toward the sky. Open, open, open. Press those hips even stronger towards the right side of the room. And then drop the right toes behind the left knee. Open up, wild thing. Expand and reach. Open up. Reverse the movement. Come back in. Drive that right knee back up toward the sky. Then slowly start to spin onto the left toes. Use the right fingertips to guide you as you drop the right shin down toward the mat. Kickstand as you need. Drop the left inner arch down toward the mat. Open up. Coming into a fallen gate pose. Left rib cage bumps up toward the sky. Left arm reaches up toward the top of the mat. Feel that opening. Press those hips forward. Left hand comes back down towards the mat. Spin onto those left toes. Pluck the right knee up and in toward the chest. Inhale, three-legged dog. Bend the right knee, open the front of that hip. May have forgotten this part on the other side. I apologize if I did. Find that opening. And then square the hips off. Right knee, right elbow. Make your way forward. Find that connection. Feel strong. Inhale, three-legged dog. Exhale, right knee, left elbow. Connect. Kick the right leg straight out. Drop the inner arch of that left foot. Open up, fallen triangle. Let those hips drop. Wide-legged forward fold. Only here for a breath or so. Then the left hand comes behind the left hip. Scoop those hips up, lift up. Feel the strength within that left arm, the reach within the right. Nice and slow, draw yourself back down. That was not slow on my end. Sweep back towards that right side, plant the right hand. Lift that left arm up and toward the sky as you pull yourself back up and in. Fallen triangle. Plant the left hand down. Square that left hip point towards the mat. Maybe a brief stretch within the outer lining of that right leg. Scoop that right knee up and in toward the chest. Inhale, three-legged dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. One more round, last side. Inhale, heels lift. Exhale, bend the knees, gaze forward. Find your way into that high plank. Pause. Feet swivel over as you open the body up. Side plank on the right. Strong and lifted within the hips. Feel that strength, that connection, that stability as you bring the left knee up and in toward the chest. Open that left knee out, open, open, press those hips forward. Keep the lift. Left toes down behind the right knee, open up. Reach and lift. Let it feel good, let it feel spacious. Reverse that movement. Draw the left knee back up and in. Nice and slow, fingertips there to guide you. Drop the left shin down toward the earth. Kickstand as you need as the inner lining of that right foot comes down. Open up, gate pose. Press those hips forward. Right hand comes back down toward the mat. Onto those right toes. Inhale, left leg lifts up high. Bend that left knee, open up. Wild thing. Definitely forgot this the first time around. I apologize. Square the hips off. Left knee, left elbow. Drive it forward. Connect. Come on back. Inhale, left leg lifts. Exhale. Left knee, left elbow. Left knee, right elbow, Then kick that right leg, that left leg, oh goodness, out in front. Drop the inner arch of that right foot down. Open up, fallen triangle. Nice and slow with control. Drop the hips back down toward the earth. Find that forward fold. Settle into your space here for just a breath or so. Walk your hands back up, right hand behind right hip. Scoop those hips up, find that opening. Let it feel good. Exhale, lower. Nice and slow, sweep the arms back in front of you until the left hand comes behind the left hip. Scoop those hips up and back, or up toward the sky. Right hand comes down, pause here as you square the hips, and then pluck that left knee in toward the chest. Three-legged dog, inhale. Exhale, downward facing dog. Find your breath. Settle into your space. Nice and slow, roll over the toes, drop the shins. Hips to heels. Pause here for a moment. Nice tall spine. Catch your breath, let your body settle. And fingertips behind the toes, scoop the tailbone underneath you as you press the hips up and forward. Roll those shoulders back. Gaze up toward the sky. If you want your head to hang heavy, let it. Drop the hips, unravel. Come back forward. And then go ahead and cross the ankles, roll the hips back behind you. Bring the soles of the feet together, and then just prop the hands back behind your hips, and just kind of shimmy back and forth, letting the knees open, heavy down toward the earth. Find a nice little opening within the inner thighs. As you kind of lean back, feel a little extra openness here in this space. then come back on top of the sit bones. Keep your shape. Hands kind of scoop the outer blades of the feet. Find that nice tall spine. Anchor down through your sit bones. And then find a nice forward fold. Using the elbows to kind of keep the opening within the hips. Finding a nice length through the low back as you keep that anchored space within your sit bones. Come back up. Bring the feet out in front of you. Hands come behind the hips. Maybe scoop the hips forward if you'd like. Hands can be wherever they need to be. They can be facing out. They can be facing back behind you. We're going to come into just a few rounds of reverse tabletop. Strong and lifted, or strong through the heels of the hands so that those shoulders stay away from the ears. And then go ahead and press the hips up toward the sky. Gaze toward the ceiling. Exhale, lower. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. Go ahead and come off the hands. Sit up nice and tall. Maybe give yourself a little bit of a hug. Find a nice tall spine. And then open the legs. Come into one more round of wide-legged forward fold. It can be as wide or as narrow as you'd like. Just find a space that feels good for you. Nice and long through the spine, reaching those heels out away from you, long through the back line of the legs. And then whenever you find the depth of your fold, you can use the block if you had it with you to kind of rest your head, if that feels good. If you brought a pillow or a blanket, you can do the same. If you brought a pillow or a blanket, you can always sit on that, actually, depending on what kind of support you're looking for, what kind of supports you brought with you. Two more breaths. Nice and slow, walk yourself back out of it. And then using the supports of your hands behind your knees, kind of draw those legs in toward one another, parallel to each other, and slowly round your spine down toward the earth. Now here you have a few options. You can come right into Shavasana. You can come into a constructive rest with your feet wide, knees knocking in toward one another. Or if you'd like to come into a supported bridge, you can always place the block underneath your sacrum and continue with that hip opening there. Wherever you choose to be, allow it to be a space where you're able to fully let go, to fully surrender to the space that you created, the space around you. You're able to fully release in gratitude as a softness, a heaviness waves across your body. Whether or not you have props with you, you're still feeling that sensation of the earth below you, supporting you, holding you in this space. And wherever you choose to be, I hope it's a space where you can remain for at least 5 more breaths to really allow everything to fully settle, to become fully receptive to everything that you created here in class today. As always, I appreciate y'all for being here, and I hope to see you next time. If you did like this class, feel free to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. I look forward to seeing y'all next time. Have an awesome rest of your day.